Thoughts. Season 1, Episode 1 of House of the Dragon dropped a bit of a lore headcanon. In a conversation between Viserys and Rhaenyra, he revealed to her that Aegon the Conqueror had a dream that foresaw the end of the world of men, beginning with a terrible winter, and what rides in the darkness of its winds will destroy the world of the living, and that a Targaryen must sit the Iron Throne when they came. Aegon took on the task of uniting Westeros to combat this threat. In Episode 4, it is shown that when exposed to fire, Valyrian glyphs appear on the dagger passed down to Viserys that talk of the prince that was promised. This changes the way the conquest appears. Contrary to the histories, it wasn't ego and hunger for power that drove Aegon and his sisters to fly their dragons to war on the continent. The Andal thought that a male must sit the Iron Throne may have clouded the way this prophecy was interpreted. This made me think about a number of things in the Targaryen timeline that this knowledge would impact. At first I thought that the knowledge had gotten lost and much later rediscovered. However, I've come to think that though people tried to eliminate the prophecy, the evidence went underground, was relocated, and hidden. Aegon I had Blackfire, and Visenya had Dark Sister. Rhaenys, whose actual bloodline led to the prince that was promised, had the dagger. Is all Valyrian steel haunted by the souls of the blood sacrifice that formed the steel? Was that the lesson behind the Blightbringer myth? Was it like the One Ring? Did the dagger find its way north to find Jon? Was it trying to find its way to Bran? Catelyn brought it back south, and if Littlefinger still has it, it's in the Vale with Sansa. Viserys did say, "Promise me, Rhaenyra," bringing back echoes of Lyanna's "Promise me, Ned." This brings to mind Rhaegar, who was the last known person who held evidence of the prince that was promised prophecy, and discussed it with Maester Aemon. It is entirely possible he had the dagger Viserys showed to Rhaenyra that was used in the attempt to kill Bran hundreds of years later. Why did they wed if they did not love each other? Your grandsire commanded it. A woods witch had told him that the prince that was promised would be born of their line. The ghost of Highheart came to King's Landing with Jenny of Oldstones in the time of Aegon V. She said that the prince that was promised would come from the line of Aerys and Rhaella. These two siblings were promptly married to each other. They had 3 surviving children, Rhaegar, Viserys, and Daenerys. No one ever looked for a girl, he said. It was a prince that was promised, not a princess. Rhaegar, I thought. The smoke was from the fire that devoured Summerhall on the day of his birth. The salt from the tears shed for those who died. The error crept in from the translation. Dragons are neither male nor female. Barth saw the truth of that, but now one and now the other, as changeable as flame. The language misled us all for 1,000 years. As of Book 5, A Dance with Dragons, Daenerys has no children. Her brother Viserys died apparently childless, and Rhaegar had 2 legitimate children and strong hints of one other either legitimate or not. Rhaegar's first 2 are presumed dead, although there is a boy that claims to be his son. His potential child with Lyanna Stark still lives. Rhaegar also spent lots of time in Summerhall, reading and writing songs. Since the dagger ended up with the Baratheon court and was recognized by Littlefinger, a member of Robert's small council, mayhaps Robert acquired the dagger from Rhaegar's corpse. Did Ned have the dagger in front of Robert? If Mad King Aerys had it upon his death, it would have ended up with Jaime and Tywin being Valyrian steel. We need to look backwards from Rhaegar's bloodline either way. Going backwards, you have Aerys and Rhaella, brother and sister, Jaehaerys and Shiera, brother and sister, Aegon V and Betha Blackwood, Maekar I and Diana Dane, Daeron II and Mariah Martell, bringing Dorne into the Seven Kingdoms, Aegon IV and Nerys, brother and sister, with rumors of Daeron II's father being her other full brother, Aemon the Dragon Knight, Viserys II and Lara Rhaegar of Lys, Daemon and Rhaenyra, uncle and niece. Rhaenyra's parents were Viserys I and Aemma Arryn, with Aemma's parents being Daella Targaryen and Roderick Arryn. Daella's parents were Jaehaerys and Alysanne. Brothers Daemon and Viserys I both had Alyssa and Balon for parents. Alyssa and Balon were brother and sister, whose parents were Jaehaerys and Alysanne, also Daella's parents, brother and sister. Aenys I and Alyssa Velaryon, both Valyrian families. Aegon I and Rhaenys, brother and sister. The bloodline did not follow always through the firstborn, and in the case of Rhaenyra, or any other of the incest marriages, may even have followed matrilineal lines. In the case of Nerys and Aemon the Dragon Knight, may have missed the Iron Throne entirely on the male line. Was the adherence to incest to keep the female bloodline attached to a Targaryen on the Iron Throne, if they could not rule from it? People ancillary to this bloodline that are considered connected to the prophecy are Cregan Stark and Brynden Rivers. Let's talk first about Cregan Stark. The wiki states that he was born in 108 AC during the reign of Viserys I. He became Lord of Winterfell and Warden of the North at 13 under the regency of his uncle in 121 AC, ridding himself of his regency in 126 AC. He hosted Jace and his dragon Vermax in 129 after Jace was named Rhaenyra's heir, and presumably been told the prophecy. Jace and Cregan made the Pact of Ice and Fire, vowing to join their bloodlines, and it was rumored Vermax laid a clutch of eggs at Winterfell. He was on the side of the Blacks during the dance and became Aegon III's hand for a day. He returned to Winterfell and instead of a Targaryen wife per the pact, took a Blackwood wife. He was 49 and alive in 157 AC when his son and heir died at Sunspear, up to possibly 209 AC, but there is no data to tell us when he died. He has been referred to as the Old Man of the North. He would definitely have been alive when Baelor I, Viserys II, Aegon IV, and Daeron II were born. He may have been 76 years old at Daeron II's coronation and 67 when Bloodraven was born. First we have the dagger, the prophecy written on it. Aegon would have shared his dream with his sister wives. His wives would have told their children, regardless of the throne. Visenya wanted to marry Maegor to Rhaena, oldest daughter of Aenys I and Alyssa Velaryon. This would have brought together the lines of Aegon's sisters, but this did not happen until much had passed. As it stood, Aenys married first child Rhaena and his heir Aegon, so that his oldest daughter would rule with his oldest son on his death. Aegon and Dreamfire were killed by Maegor and Balerion at the God's Eye after Aegon had already had children. Maegor took Rhaena to wife and made Aegon's daughter Arya his heir, disinheriting their brother Jaehaerys in the process. Aenys may have told Rhaena and Aegon. Rhaena would have told Jaehaerys or Alysanne when she joined his cause. Arya, penultimate rider of Balerion, may have found out from Maegor, Rhaena, Aegon, or Jaehaerys. Jaehaerys would have told Viserys, who told Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra may have told Daemon, who should have been told when he was heir. She could have told Jace before he flew to Winterfell. Daemon's children Aegon III was 10 and Viserys II was 8 when Rhaenyra died. Joffrey died at 13, Lucerys died at 14, and Jaehaerys died at 16. At the end, Rhaenyra may have told all of her surviving children to ensure the prophecy lived on. Aegon III, if he knew, told Daeron I, who told Baelor I. If there were writings, Baelor the Blessed would have purged all references to heretical prophecies from King's Landing as a fanatic of the faith, determined to end his and his sister's bloodline. Viserys II, a child of Rhaenyra and Daemon, was 22 years older than Baelor I and was in King's Landing, where he could have saved what he could have considered important papers. Daeron II was 19 when Viserys II died. Daeron II was crowned in 184 AC and built Summerhall in 188. He may have moved the stashed papers to Summerhall for protection from the faith. Bloodraven was 13 at the time Summerhall was built. Daeron completed Aegon's political goal of the unification of Westeros through his marriage with a Martell bride. Bloodraven was 34 when Daeron II died. After his years as a hostage in Lys following the dance, Viserys returned to King Landing with a beautiful Lyseni bride, Lara Rogar, the daughter of a wealthy and influential noble house. Tall and willowy, with the silver gold hair and purple eyes of Valeria, for the blood still runs strong in Lys, she was 7 years Viserys' elder. She was also a woman who never felt part of the court and was never truly happy there. Yet she gave him 3 children before she at last returned to her native Lys. They had 2 sons and a daughter. He married his daughter Nerys to his son Aegon IV. Aegon IV caused as much trouble as he could by giving Blackfire to his bastard son and throwing a hand grenade on his deathbed by legitimizing his bastards. One named Bloodraven, part Blackwood, took up the mantle to make sure the bloodline was protected, siding with Daeron II, who built Summerhall and its libraries. Let's take a closer look at bucking the bloodline. Baelor the Blessed seemed to be trying to end his bloodline, while Aegon IV was a chaos agent on his deathbed. Baelor, born 144, died 171. Aegon IV, born 135, died 184. So there may have been common influences. Baelor's maester was Grand Maester Munkin, and his hand was Viserys II. Munkin was one of Aegon III's regents. He drugged Jaehaera on her wedding day, was present at Lord Corlys's death, claimed no women could rule even when there were no male heirs. He voted to reverse Aegon III's decision based on his youth. Under his watch, Jaehaera committed suicide and Daenerys was poisoned. He treated Marston Waters to death. He convinced Aegon to remove Lord Rowan as his hand and became hand himself until 136 when Aegon III came of age. The last dragon died in 153, while Maester Alfred was Grand Maester, but Munkin was Maester before and after. When Alfred was Grand Maester, Viserys II was hand. He also treated Baelor to death in 171. Viserys II became king and died a year later. Aegon IV's Maester is unknown. If Aegon IV was told, he made a mess of things, giving Blackfire to his second son with Aegon III's daughter, Dana. The rumor that his sister wife Nerys had an affair with his brother Aemon that produced his official heir may have helped his decision, but either bloodline potentially would work. However, Daeron II, minus Blackfire, was his historical successor. Though Maekar was not the firstborn, he was styled the Prince of Summerhall and its contents. Aegon V, known as Egg, and his maester brother Aemon both seem to be aware of the prophecy at some point. Egg's firstborn, Duncan, married Jenny of Oldstones, who came to court with the ghost of High Heart, who prophesied that Aerys II and Rhaella would birth the prince that was promised. Jaehaerys was second-born and heir, after Duncan abdicated the bloodline. Rhaegar was born at Summerhall, the night that Egg had a ritual to birth dragons that ended in tragedy. Rhaegar spent a lot of time there and read about the prophecy. There must have been signs and portents for the time of the prince that was promised that made him think it was him, and others that changed his mind. "Will you make a song for him?" the woman asked. "He has a song," the man replied. "He is the prince that was promised, and his is the song of ice and fire." He looked up when he said it, and his eyes met Dany's, and it seems as if he saw her standing there beyond the door. "There must be one more," he said, though whether he was speaking to her or the woman in the bed, she could not say. "The dragon has 3 heads." Dany Dany could not let it go. "His is a song of ice and fire," my brother said. "I'm certain it was my brother, not Viserys, Rhaegar. He had a harp with silver strings. Prince Rhaegar played such a harp."